Hey everyone, welcome back. This week I'm going to be showing you a quick way that we can get started working with augmented reality. So the first thing we need is a picture that we want to replace with our own artwork. Here I've got a billboard from McDonald's. I'm just going to open it in Photoshop. Once it's open in Photoshop, I need to find the perspective crop tool. So if you can find the crop tool there, if you just click and hold, you'll see the perspective crop tool pick up, and it just basically works the same thing. I just want to select roughly the size and shape of my billboard image, but I'm going to drag those corners into the image. And what this is going to do is it's going to take a picture that's maybe not perfectly rectangular. If it's taken at an angle, you can kind of reclaim its original dimensions in this way, and you'll see what I mean. So right now, my billboard image, it was something that, has a lot of background and landscape around, and it's also kind of askew. The perspective cropped tool will allow me to kind of readjust this. So you see here, I'm just dragging onto the corners of the image that I want to keep. And as soon as I'm done here in just a moment, I'll click enter and you'll see how it kind of crops out that image. So there you go. Once I click enter, it's all squared up. It cut all that extra stuff from around it out. And what I'm going to need to do now is just go ahead and save this as its own file. That's the first thing you need to do. This is going to be our replacing image. And so we just go to save as. Make sure that you click JPEG, because we don't want it to be a Photoshop file, and then you can just give it another name. I just put cropped in order to indicate that this is the cropped image. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to stay in this file because we want to create a new image that's the exact same dimensions as the original. So you can do that by adding a layer. You can pick a color and paint brushes and create your own artwork on top of that. I found some really fun brushes in kind of that brush menu. The Kyle's, art brushes are really fun to play with. But in Photoshop, you could do anything you wanted. You could even maybe grab a text tool and add in some text. Oh, you can't see it there. So let me go ahead. Let me try and pick a different color and we'll see what happens here. Still nothing. Okay, I'm going to pick a black and you'll just see what goes on here. So you can just type in your own text if you wanted to kind of create, like a Barbara Kruger or like the They Live sort of effect, and just cycle through and find an interesting font. You can scale it up and down. I prefer to work with text in Illustrator, so that's also an option here if you wanted to then take your cropped image and import it into Illustrator so you get the proper dimensions and do artwork on top of that. That's totally fine. But for what I'm going to do, let me make sure I delete all of my stuff here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of work with that original source image, and I'm going to just hack it up a little bit. I'm going to create my own kind of digital collage on my own. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract the chicken sandwich here. I want to leave the wrapper in the hand. So the first thing I'm going to do is just set up a new layer that just has that part on top. So I'm going to take my quick selection brush. I'm just going to paint in those areas that I want to keep. So that includes the hand and the wrapper. And then if I zoom in, I can just kind of refine it. Again, if you click the Option key, you'll see that plus sign in the middle of the quick selection brush cursor will turn to a minus, and you can subtract things from your selection. And so here, I'm sizing my brush up and down using the square bracket keys. Left will size it down, right will size it up. And I'm just going in and I'm getting a really nice selection here. Another useful thing you can do to check your selection is to just press the Q key. That turns everything that's not selected into red, and then you can see really clearly. So what I want to do is I just want to copy what my selection is, and I'm going to go to Paste Special and paste in place. And so that has given me a brand new layer here of just the hands. You can see if I click them on and off, you can see that layer at the top is just the hands, and here at the bottom, if I invisibilize my top layer, it's the full thing. So what I need to do from here is just erase a bunch of stuff because I don't need any of this. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, make sure my layer is selected, click Fill, and then just use the Content Aware option. So it will do its work. And you'll see here, it did an okay job. It's trying to read kind of, what it should fill in the gaps with. So if you try it again, it might do a different result. Sometimes I find that that's useful, but it at least gives me a place to start. A nice yellow field to work with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a couple ways, to just subtract some of these McDonald's logos. So I'm going to use the content aware fill option again. If that's not working for you, another way you can easily get rid of stuff is by using this, the clone stamp tool. So if you grab that and you click option, it will sample an area that you can then paint in another place. So for example, if I sample in the center of this McDonald's logo and I take it over, let's try that again. Oh, there we go. So I'm sampling there in the center by clicking option, and now it allows me to just paint in. You can see that it tracks two cursors now. And that allows you to kind of move things around to duplicate objects. But I can also use it by just sampling some yellow field and painting that thing away. That way I know it's going to kind of fit the same color. It'll look a little bit realistic. So I might go just bit by bit here. You can see once you hit the bottom of your sampling thing, it starts to paint that sign again. But a little trial and error, you can get the hang of the clone stamp tool, which I find really useful for a lot of different things. And now I'm doing the same thing with the text. I'm going to replace this with my own copy, my own text that I want to include in my collage. So I'm just using the content aware fill. Again, doesn't work perfect, so I might go back, try again with another pass, and if that doesn't work, I'll use the clone stamp tool. Okay, so now I can click back on that layer and we can see what everything looks like together. So now I've got just the hand and kind of that wrapper. And I'm just going to take a text tool and I'm going to put in whatever I want to replace my copy with. And once again, I want it to look nice, to look cohesive and kind of professional. And so I'm just going to play with the size, and I'm going to find an interesting font that I think reads really cleanly and interestingly. And I can always use the move tool to move any of these elements around in place. Okay, so here was the fun part for me. I had this idea, this concept that I wanted to do to replace the chicken sandwich with just like a chicken's head. So I went on Google, I found some like Creative Commons applicable images, and so I've just dragged one in here, and I'm using the bounding box to just kind of resize it, and then I can flip horizontal. If you right click, you can come up with some menu options there, and you can kind of just adjust your object to fit. So a little bit of this is trial and error. If you've been using Photoshop for a while, it can be really useful. But hopefully, at least just by watching what I'm doing, you can see how I come up with things. So here, I'm using free transform. If you right click with your selection tool selected, you can get a free transform, and you can kind of just resize things to fit. And then again, I'm dragging it into place. And now, because you can see it's on a layer below our, the layer that has our hand in the buns wrapper, it's looking as though like there's kind of this cutout effect. So now what I want to do, I want to rasterize a layer. It was a smart layer, which means you can't erase things out. You can't edit it really beyond that. And I'm just going to get my quick selection tool again, and I'm going to delete all that green background. So a real quick paint with it. Definitely singled it all out. And here we go. So once I paint in that green area, I can delete. I'll paint in this little green area. Oh, I think I need to reselect my layer there. What do I have? Oh, maybe there it goes. It's deleted, and so now you see that that's starting to look a little bit better. Another thing I might do up at the top here, looks a little funky. That red comb of the chicken's head doesn't kind of continue, so maybe I'll clone stamp again, and I'll just kind of paint that in just to make it look a little bit neater. Get rid of that little yellow spot. And now what I'm doing is I'm adding even like a little drop shadow effect. You can do this by clicking FX in that layers panel below, and I'm just adjusting the kind of size and the position of it and which direction it's coming from, just to give it a little more three-dimensional effect. And now with my chicken head selected, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my eraser tool and just erase out that bottom part. And because that's below the wrapper layer, I can just get right up to that edge and do it kind of ad hoc, and it goes really quickly. So now that's starting to look pretty cool to me, but I still am going to do some kind of color variations. So the first thing I might do is just play with some adjustment layers here on this panel. If you click the little icon where it's a circle and it looks like a half white and half black, you can find some fun like color adjustment layers. And so what I wanted to do, I thought I would kind of like, this is kind of an angry, kind of sardonic piece. I would just invert the McDonald's colors, make it a little bit darker. And so there's a lot of different processes that I used for this. I don't think it's really important to explain them all. I think for your project, you can do whatever you think you want to do for this, but I would just kind of encourage you to explore the tools of Photoshop and see what you can do to create your own artwork that you're going to replace. So let's just watch kind of how this unfolded over the next kind of period of time. Okay, so at a certain point, I'd worked on this for a while. I was pretty happy with it. So let's just go to File, click Save As. Remember to set it as a JPEG, not a Photoshop file, and give it a new name. So I'm going to call this Crispy Chicken Altered. So go ahead and click Save, click OK, and now we're all set. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up Adobe Premiere, which is a video editing platform. The reason we're doing this is because Artivive, the platform for the augmented reality part of this, asks you to upload an image that you want to replace with a video file that you want to replace it with. So your image isn't going to be like a moving picture or anything, but we do need to create like a short video clip using just your static artwork that you're going to replace your original image with. So opening up Premiere, I just started a new file, new project called Crispy Chicken. And in here, there's really just one panel that we need to know, and that's called our Projects panel. And for me, it's down here at the bottom left. So what I can do is I can go find the image that I want to replace my original image with. I had two in here. One of them is my practice run. So let's see if I can't figure out. I think this one's the one I want. So let's go ahead and just drag that into our project panel. And now what we should be able to see here, let's delete that just so there's no confusion. But now here in Premiere, what we should be able to see as well is that if we right-click this, we're going to create a new sequence out of that image. So just go find that new sequence from Clip. And over on the right, you'll see that the timeline has popped up. You can see that there's a single image in there, and it runs about 5 seconds. And that's really all we need, about a 5-second clip of this. So if I run to the end and I click that little bracket, mark end out, you'll see that it gives this kind of gray span. That's just defining how long your video clip is. Hopefully you can get that figured out. But once again, when we're finished, one thing we might do is just I'm just kind of clicking around these panels to get rid of all this, extra stuff, just so you can see. That project panel is really the only thing you need to worry about here. You can resize them if you want, just like any other thing. But okay, let's say that we are ready to go. What we need to do is go to File and Export, not Save, Export. But we want to make sure that first we have this blue kind of selection around our timeline. So again, go to Export, go to Media. You can click on the blue kind of link there, and you'll see that you can rename it. So I'm going to call mine Crispy Chicken Movie. Again, I can check and see also what directory it's going in. So let's just go ahead and just place that in my AR Graffiti folder. Organization's always nice for a digital artist. And up at the top, we can either, we can select audio and video, but we want to make sure that it's set to H.264. This will export an MP4 file, which is just very low compression, low file size. And when you're ready, just click Export, and that's going to churn out your little 5-second video clip. So if I was to open that right now, you would open in QuickTime. You would see that it's not doing anything, but it is a 5-second video clip just of our still image. So now we've reached the end, and all we need to do from here on out is go to artivive.com, that's ARTIVIVE.com, and we're going to start a new account. This is the augmented reality software, and you can see from some of their examples on the screen that it's allowing people to do really cool things with the arts. So just go ahead and create your own account, just register, and over here on the right, click the one for students. This will mean that it's a free account. You get, I think, 3 free AR artworks that you can create. But just go ahead and enter in all this information. It'll send you probably a link for you to activate your account, so be sure that you catch that, and then you're good to go. So once you're registered and you go back and you log in, what you'll be taken to is basically this, and this is my project dashboard. So I can just go ahead and get started up here at this top in that gray bar by giving my new artwork a name, and I'm going to call this Crispy Chicken, of course, and I'm going to click Add Artwork. Now you can see there's one spot on the left that's for your image, and then one spot on the right for your video. All you have to do is just upload both of those into the appropriate spot. So there's my crispy chicken cropped. Remember, that's the original image. You can see it right there. It's the original image. And now I'm going to upload the video of the image that I want it replaced with. So a little confusing there. It has to be a video file, but it does. It's just a limitation of Artivive. Now when I click Add, you're pretty much good to go. It'll start working on processing them. It'll save your artworks. One thing that you want to remember is that the more original or unique of a picture that you start with, the better your recognition will be. So sometimes if you took a picture of something that's just like really simple text and not all that interesting, you'll get only like 1 star of recognition speed, or you might not even get it to be readable at all. So oftentimes I find billboards work really well for this because they often include like photographic images. Basically, the more unique your original picture is, the better it will be to read. And so you can see here on the Audubon one that I had done recently with this bird illustration, it's got a 5-star recognition speed because it's just a really unique picture that I was capturing. So we can go ahead, it'll sit there and process for a little while. You can try and refresh and see. But essentially, I think this one ended up with 4 stars recognition. So if you do get less than that, you might get an error. You might urge you to pick a new image that you want to replace. But other than that, we're pretty much done. The last thing you want to do is download that Artivive app on your phone and see what happens when you go and visit your original image. So you can see there, my artwork is now projected within the Artivive app, just looking at it as though you're looking through a camera onto that billboard spot. So there's a little bit of a funkiness. There's that yellow stripe up at the top, but this works pretty well. And you can see that it's really responsive. I can walk up really close to it and it changes the angle. It allows you to see the details. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out. And just to show you a couple more examples of things you might do, here is a Frosted Flakes box, and here is like a tabloid magazine. I was really inspired by the They Live movie. And so, this is really pretty flexible. You can take just about any flat, 2-dimensional rectangular image and replace it with your own artwork. I find it really fun to use the billboard approach, but you might find something else. So I hope you have fun with this challenge. I really love this new augmented reality. I love Artivive because it makes it so easy. And so I hope just the ease of the process this week will allow you to be really creative with the artwork that you're replacing that original image with. So let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have fun.